I'm Dan Gaida. I'm the director at the Red Wing Arts Association. I think I know most everybody here, but welcome and thank you for coming. This is the installation for the sculpture piece, the celebration of this beautiful sculpture called A Tribute. And as this is a tribute to veterans, I'd just like to have the veterans that are here, just raise your hand, whatever. How many veterans do we have here? Give them a round of applause. So we'll start with that tribute to the veterans, both from the audience and also with the sculpture. A year and a half ago, a former student of mine, Paul Riedner, was in Red Wing, stopped by my office, and we had a long talk about his experience in Iraq and the challenges that he faced returning from active duty to civilian life. He stated that the arts, drawing, sketching, writing, and even film, were ways that he was able to process his experience and the challenge that it was to transition to civilian life. From that conversation came the idea and plan, the plan developed for the Red Wing Arts Association to host the Minnesota Veterans Art Experience. Paul has been a part of that process from the beginning. We came up with three purposes for the program. The first was to provide veterans with the opportunity to explore and enjoy the arts. And that was probably primary. Secondly, we wanted to also provide the veterans with the opportunity to express their experiences through the arts and to use the arts as a way to express what they had experienced while serving their country. And lastly, and that's really where we're at today, was to utilize the arts as a vehicle to help our community better understand the experience the veteran has as in the military and then coming back to our community. The Arts Retreat was the last week of May. We had veterans from World War II up through Iraq out at the Villa Maria. We offered watercolor, oil painting, plein air painting, clay, photography, cooking, film, theater, dance, and jewelry. And it was a wonderful week, and we had a great time. Perfect weather. It was a beautiful spring week. That project alone would have made the Minnesota Veterans Arts Experience worthwhile. The healing bond that formed between the veterans at the retreat continues to this day. Some of them regularly communicate online, support each other, get together, and today they're spending the day painting and picnicking up on the St. Croix River. Then the second part was a gallery show. We invited veterans from all over Minnesota to participate, veterans that are artists, and they brought art. We had a beautiful gallery show in the Depot Gallery for the month of May and June. And the other part of that show was the Veterans Art Experience, the Veterans Story Project, where we had 21 veterans share their story with artists, and then the artists created paintings or prints based on those stories, and the story and the print were displayed together. It was a very powerful and beautiful way to tell that veteran's story. Then the Philip Duff Foundation joined in the project, and we brought General John Borling to Red Wing. He had been a pilot during the Vietnam War, shot down over Vietnam, spent 6.5 years in prison in what we called in those days the Hanoi Hilton, and they communicated by tapping on the walls. And he wrote poetry and tapped that poetry on the walls to the other prisoners. And when he retired from the service, he made a book, published a book called Tapping on the Walls. He spoke at the high school, he spoke with our veterans, and he spoke at the Sheldon Theater. And it was a very powerful experience to hear his story. We also partnered with the Sheldon Theater to bring Patrick DeWayne to give his presentation called The Reluctant Hero to Red Wing. It's the story of his grandfather, who was part of the United States Army that freed Poland during World War II. And that brings us to the veteran sculpture. The idea for this community art piece actually started with a conversation with Peg Hansen. We were talking about this project, and she said, you know, you really need to leave something in the community to carry this idea forward. And we talked about the idea, threw out some ideas that might work, and came up with the idea for a sculpture. Dan Weimer got involved, and he did the first drawing, and I brought it along because there's some points to be made about it. This was the first drawing that Dan Weimer put together, and we used this drawing when we talked at various veterans groups, made a presentation to other organizations, the City Council. The City Council approved the concept, and we went forward with it, but there were a number of comments relative to this idea. One was that it really presented only the military side of that experience. And then some of our women veterans said, that looks kind of like a man. Where am I in that picture? And so we knew we had to do a little work with it. And that's when Art Kenyon joined in the project and took the questions and started to work on the ideas that we had. So at this time, I'd like to have Art come up and talk to you about his process of getting to this. Art Kenyon, give him a round of applause.
Thanks, Dan. Well, first of all, I'd like to just say that this has been a tremendous honor for me to be able to work on this tribute sculpture. It really is a culmination from the art experience that we had earlier in the summer, and one of the really gratifying outcomes of that, spending a week down at Villa Maria, was to engage with these veterans and hear their stories, get in conversations with them. And when you look at this sculpture, it's really the stories that those veterans told us that built this sculpture. So again, I want to thank all the vets for their input and really making this whole thing happen. Thanks. As far as the sculpture itself goes, it's made up of 2 plates facing each other. This is Core 10 steel, which is it's an incredible steel. It's much more dense and harder than conventional steel. It's 11/16 inch thick. Each one of these plates weighs about just under 1,000 pounds. And when you combine that with the infrastructure that's underneath here, this whole sculpture weighs in at almost 3,000 pounds. So the river can come up, but this isn't going anywhere. Okay. One of the unique capabilities of Core 10 is that it only weathers through to 1/4 of an inch on the surface here. As you know, steel can rust all the way through if you give it time. This will not do that. So it's got 1/4 of an inch that it weathers, and then it backs up on itself and creates a really beautiful patina on the surface. That process takes anywhere from 1.5 months to 2, depending on the weather. And you can see already there's variations in the coloration of the steel, but when that completes, it'll have a nice, deep, dark patina that will stay on forever. The distance between the 2 plates is 2 feet, 48 inches. Some of the veterans we've talked to have told us that represents an important time in their life. The distance between serving in the military as active duty and all that takes place when they come back as a civilian. So there's some meaning there. Each of these plates has, as Dan said, a male and female figure. The one plate is military, the other is civilian. And an interesting thing happens. As you walk around the sculpture. We really wanted to make it a three-dimensional sculpture. And as you look through the open space that's carved out here, anywhere around the sculpture you will not see the full outline of the military people, nor will you see the full outline of the civilian. What you'll see is a combination of the two. And that's what we wanted to do in order to show the strong bond that veterans have between their duty service and their civilian life after they get back home. The positioning of outdoor art is critical. We've all been in galleries where you see sculptures, but when you have public art in the outdoors, the environment or the placement of that sculpture is critical to the piece because it actually becomes part of the sculpture. So what we wanted to do was get this canopy of leaves from the trees on top, the tranquility of the river coming by, and the view looking outward. Probably the best view of this is right from this. We have 3 of these bench stones positioned around the sculpture, and if you look through here, as Dan said, you see the American flag on Bay Point Park, and you see the turn in the river, which is really kind of a metaphor for veterans when they get out of the service, looking to their life ahead. We have, as you've probably read, the plaques down below mention the tribute to the civilian and the military activity, and we also have a recognition plaque for those who helped put this together. So we're hopeful that this will be around for a long time, that veterans will come down here and feel the tranquility and the peacefulness here and reflect on the small tribute that we have to the tremendous sacrifice that they've given to the world and the country and our community. Thanks.
Art was the president of the Red Wing Arts Association when we got this idea going, and he's been just such a key part of it, the design, the follow-through, the support, and so Chappie, come on up. We want to thank him. Come up, Art.
I'm not going to talk. We wanted to thank Art for his work on this entire project. It's really been, as you heard Dan and Art discuss, it's just been fantastic. And I think that the one thing that Dan hasn't been touting his own horn, but this whole thing happened because of Dan Gaida. And this event has been one of the best events the Red Wing Arts Association has been involved with as long as I've been with the organization. So please, would you give Dan Gaida a big round of applause? Now, thanks for all your work. I took a picture, believe it? Really? So I wanted to present you with a photograph that I took. Basically, I took it yesterday, and it was in the paper this morning. I don't know if you know how if you saw that, but that's pretty fast.
So what it is here?
It's a photograph I took of the structure, and I hope you enjoy it.
Want to say something else?
No, I just want to thank everyone that's involved in the Red Wing Arts Association. It's an incredible group of people, and this guy right here is what makes it happen. Thanks.
Well, all know that one person, it takes the village or whatever. When I was working on the project, on the grant with the Minnesota State Arts Board, which funded the retreat, I spent a day working and writing on grants, and if any of you have any idea what that's about, it's kind of a tedious process. But I knew I wanted a woman's perspective, and I kept thinking, well, what women do I know that have been in the service, and what students, and where could I find somebody? And it was a busy day in the gallery, and I heard someone asking some questions out in the gallery. And so I go out and do the usual, where are you from? Well, Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Oh, okay. And what do you do there? Well, I'm the retired commander. Oh, where are you from? Red Wing. Well, you're just the person I'm looking for. And Wendy Martinson joined the project that afternoon. We talked. She was excited about it. She's been a part of it, helping us. She helped with the sculpture design. I don't know if she remembers that, but we were sitting at Caribou, and Art had his drawings, and she said, why don't you just put them so you can look right through? And that was the real key. So, Wendy, thank you for your help, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Dan. Well, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Mayor Bender, other distinguished guests, I hope you know who you are because I don't. Citizens of Red Wing, visitors to Red Wing, and fellow veterans. This has been an extraordinary year for me, year and a half, to be able to be part of something in a community that I actually left 33 years ago when I joined the Army. And always came back to Red Wing. I love Red Wing. I love this spot. And so when Dan said, how would you like to be part of this? I couldn't think of a better way to give back a little bit to this community that gave me so much. So first of all, I would like to continue the thank yous to the Art Association and to Dan for your leadership and your guidance. You had a vision about what this year could be, and it culminated with the Veterans Art Week and with this dedication today. And I just really want to commend you for seeing that this was something that needed to be done, that could be done, and finding the many, many hands that came together to make it possible. And I'd like to thank all of the people and the individuals, the organizations that contributed to make this happen, the entire operation. That's military lingo, huh? It happens because people are willing to provide services, people are willing to provide donations, large grants, and it takes many hands to put these kinds of things together. And so I want to thank all of you for recognizing the value and the importance of something as important as a tribute to those men and women who serve our country. And I'd like to thank Art. Art, you put together something else that is just absolutely stunning for all of us to be able to look at, to touch, to emote over. And you know, there are many, many locations around Red Wing where your hand has touched, and your legacy will go long after you. I'm sorry, my friend, but it will. And I just want you to know how special that is and what a gift that you have given to this city of Red Wing to share your gift with them. So thank you for doing that. I have to take a look at my notes here. You know, one more thing that happens at this location is not just what you can feel and you can touch, but what you can hear, and that's the vibrancy of the city of Red Wing. And about a half hour ago, we were listening to some really jazzy music over here from the Harbor Bar, and they toned it down for this bit of time so that we could have a program that was in tribute and to add some decorum to this event. You know, Levee Park is a place that I suspect if you're from Red Wing, you have come here on many occasions to seek solace, to think about what was going on in your life, to think about what you wished was going on in your life, what wasn't going on in your life, to perhaps think about what the future might bring, what was going to come around that bend in the river up there. And it's a place of hope, a place of hopefulness. And so I think it's appropriate for this veteran sculpture as veterans move from their uniform into their civilian life. You know, if you're coming from this direction, you actually realize that this is where we came from. We came from this side with our normal clothes and our everyday lives, and then we walked into another life, and that was our military life. And some of us stayed for a while, some of us stayed for a longer while, some of us saw some really terrible things, others heard of some terrible things and shared. But this place and this location in time really means an awful lot. If the river and the grounds here could talk of the secrets they know, what a story we could tell. But I wanted to share with you, because I do think this is just so very hopeful. Much of my experience during active duty has been with wounded warriors and then with retirees like myself. But I wanted to share with you a story of a young sergeant who had been an architectural engineer, decided that it was his turn to serve his country. So he went off to the military, and soon enough he got orders to go to Iraq. And he had been there not so very long when the vehicle that he was in was hit by an IED. And 3 of the other soldiers in that vehicle were killed, and Bill was not. But Bill and his partner were both very, very severely injured and burned. And they ended up at Fort Sam Houston, where we have a premier burn unit. And for the next 3 years, Bill stayed at Fort Sam Houston, receiving a series of surgeries and treatments for his burns. And when he looked down, his hands weren't the same as they had been before he met with that IED. And he really didn't have any hope for what would his future bring to him. His fiancée had decided that she wasn't in this for the long haul. This just wasn't her, that she couldn't do it. He didn't think he would have his previous training to fall back on because his hands weren't as they were, and he wasn't sure that he would be able to do the artwork that he had done previously. And he was on a watch because people were really unsure of what Bill would do, and that he may bring harm to his own life. And he happened to be sitting one day in this fabulous place that we have down at Fort Sam Houston, which also was a gift to wounded warriors and their families. It's called the Warrior Family Support Center, and it's a home. And they go there, and it's got everything but bedrooms. It's got the biggest kitchen you've ever seen. It's a kitchen to dream of. Moms go there, and they've fixed favorite meals for their sons and daughters, and there's something going on just about every hour of the day, every waking hour of the day, something for soldiers and their family members to do. And Bill was over there, and he was sitting next to the director's desk. And when she had the desk established, she decided she didn't want any walls because she wanted it to be like a home. And in a home, you just kind of sit there at the dining room table and you do your thing, and you go into the kitchen and you grab something, and everything's pretty visible. And so her desk is out in the open, but she had Bill sitting there, and she was conversing with him, and somebody came along and wanted to discuss with her, what could we do with the 30 feet of fireplace up to the cathedral ceiling? Should we get a painting that would go there? Do we even know an artist that would be willing to do that was reasonable? We want something that's hopeful. We want something that speaks to soldiers. We want something that, really, we want something, but we don't know what we want. And Bill was taking this in. And as they were talking, he began to doodle. It was really the beginning of a sculpture that he was putting together. And that sculpture ended up on the 30-foot fireplace in this building, and it's a butterfly sculpture. It has 75 butterflies on it in a swirling upward motion, and it's It's a sculpture of hope, and he wanted that to speak to other soldiers, to let them know that in their darkest time, there was hope. Just hang in there, there's hope. There's hope in a community, there's hope in friends, there's hope in what you do, and you just have to seek and find that hope. And so what I think you have built here today is a tribute to veterans, for the hopefulness of the future, for a remembrance of the past, but a moving on from that past, to take that past because it is part of who we are, but we're moving forward into the future, and there is always, always hope for that future. Thank you for letting me share the afternoon with you.
Thank you, Wendy. It's amazing to me that we were able to make this connection and have Wendy be a part of the project. I do have to thank people, and I know it's kind of a long list, and that's always a risk that you'll leave somebody off, but I'm going to try. The local committee that kind of joined with us right away was Chap Aiken, Michael Anderson, Paul Riedner, and Wendy. The Red Wing Arts Association board that when I said we'd like to try to do this, said go for it. Chap Aiken, Fritz Anderson, Sandy Giles, Kurt Gruhl, Carol Ike, Jim Magnuson, Tao Peng, Michael Way, and Art was on the board at that time. Working on the sculpture and the sculpture idea, Paul was involved, Peg Hansen, Dan Weimer, Art Kenyon, Wendy, all were sort of sounding boards for this design that came up. In the construction, Curly's Welding, Dave Clark, we went there first. Where could we go to get this built? And he got us started, and he referred us then, said that Thomas and Betts, Thomas and Betts Meyer Industries, we all think of it that way, that would be the place to go, and hooked us up with Wayne Gustafson. I think I saw Wayne. Where are you, Wayne? Give Wayne a round of applause. He couldn't have happened without Wayne. You're an engineer, right? You were an engineer out there or something? He was in the engineering department, and, you know, for Art and I, it was, well, we'll just cut it out and it'll be fine. Well, Wayne knew that we had to have a lot more than that. So thank you, Wayne. Sandy Richter, I think I saw Sandy come in. Where you at, Sandy? Sandy over there. Roger Schelmer, Roger, Jeff Boygenson, the crew. I don't know, are there any of the other people out from Thomas and Betts here? I'll tell you, they are so proud of this, and it was really fun to go out there and see them. They were as proud of that as we are here. Two Hills, Tom Buckman helped with the digitalizing of the artwork. Keith Johnson with the plaques. Casey Pfluger, I saw Casey, hauled this thing over here, brought it in, set it down on 6 great big bolts, just, you know, right on the spot. Not off a dot, it just came right down. You're amazing, Casey. You are. The city, Brian Peterson, Lynn Narninger, Sean Blaney. Sean, I think I saw you. Sean, where you at? Where'd you go? Oh, way over here. All right, Sean. Pat Ramaker, Dan Anderson, and the whole crew. They've spent all week getting this site ready, and underneath here is a huge slab of concrete, all this sodding, all the work. Amazing job. Thank you so much. And the approval process, even the city council, Dan Bender and the city council members that were willing to go with us on this, Ralph Roderkus, Jason Sibian, Dean Hove, Mike Schultz, Peggy Rader, Lisa Bailey, Marilyn Menke. And then none of this can happen without a lot of financial support. And here I hope I haven't missed someone, but AMVETS, right over here, AMVETS, Blue Airways, Sam Blue, Jones Family Foundation, Treasure Island Resort and Casino with Cindy Taube out there, Suzanne Blue, the Minnesota State Arts Board, and the Red Wing Arts Association all contributed to this, and many people gave smaller amounts or verbal support or helped in other ways. This is such a tribute to the community that we have, the number of people that have been willing to kick in and make this happen. It's just amazing. If I've missed someone, I apologize. I want to thank everybody. Thank you for coming today. And now we get the pleasure of turning it over to the city. And Mayor Dan Bender, would you come up and please accept from the Red Wing Arts Association a tribute.
Thanks, Dan. What a beautiful afternoon to be here to view this magnificent tribute to veterans. One of the things I noticed while I was standing here that I really like about this is if you're sitting where you are and you're looking through this sculpture, the main view of it is upstream. So not only are you looking through this, but you're also looking up at the same time. And I think that says a lot about the meaning of this particular sculpture. The one thing I noticed that we're missing today is shadows, because the sun's not shining. I think that gives everybody a chance and an opportunity to come back again when the sun is out, especially in the evening when the sun is right about over there. This is going to be amazing, and it's really going to look cool. Actually, it's not the shadows, I guess, we're looking at, it's the unshadows we're looking at, but whatever, it's going to look great, trust me. So, on with the acceptance on behalf of the City of Red Wing, as mayor and as a veteran, I am both delighted and honored to accept this tribute for the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. It's our hope that from now on, that as people from our community, veterans in particular, come down here and view this art and interpret it for themselves. We have our own, meanings to it, but as it is with art, it's the eye of the beholder. And I know that veterans will take their own meaning from this piece. And again, it's just been such an exciting journey and such an exciting project. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for being a part of this afternoon. Thank you.